Started?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Good morning, everyone. Hi. So, if you click, yeah, we'll just do us. So welcome. My name is Kristen Classi-Zummo. I'm here with Todd and Mick.
Nice to see everyone.
Definitely not strangers to the industry. So we are analysts at Circana. So you might be thinking, well, why am I here today? Who are you? Who's Circana? If you click for me, Todd. So Circana is a market research firm. You guys might remember us from being at NPD. NPD, a market research firm that really looked at all things auto and apparel and accessories, merged with IRI, which was really prominent in the CPG and food industry. And now we are currently tracking over $4 trillion of consumer spending. It's really the complete consumer spending. And why does that matter? Because in today's world, if someone is spending more at food, on food at Target, it is taking away from what they're spending when they go down the intimates aisle. So it's important to really see that total share of wallet and how consumers are understanding. And we're really the only firm that can capture that complete consumer spending. So today we're gonna talk about a few different things. First, we're gonna talk about overall retail performance. We'll look at all industries in 2023, how they performed. Just a few slides so you get an understanding of who performed well and who was challenged this past year. Then we'll look at apparel. So we'll look at the overall apparel industry, where are we seeing growth, who's driving that growth, what worked well last year and what didn't. Then we're gonna dive into intimates. Todd's gonna take you through intimates performance and also really hone in on how brands to grow. We'll talk about examples, some case studies, and really some tips and guidance of what to follow for your brand, your store. So first, overall retail performance. So here we're looking at 2023's total retail performance by industry. I know it's small, I apologize. I will tell you kind of what we're looking like if you go down. So first of all the way to the left, you see that growth, 14% growth. This industry led in terms of dollar growth, unit growth. That is prestige beauty. Prestige beauty blew retail out of the water this past year. Now this is beauty sold at department stores, at Sephora, at Ulta. We're not even talking about beauty on the mass side. This is high-end beauty. In a time when all we could talk about is financial pressures, consumers pulling back, they're not pulling back here. They're spending more, they are buying more when it comes to beauty products. And what's really interesting about beauty is not just the dollar growth you see charted on the bottom, but that unit growth, which you see in the arrow. It's the only one with the green arrow. It is the only industry that saw unit growth this past year. So that tells you that natural organic demand is up. It's really that treat mindset. Again, in the face of a lot of financial pressures and consumers really tightening their budget, this treat mindset is still proving to be strong. Consumers splurging on a $40, $50 lipstick. Yeah, it's expensive relatively if you think about beauty products and a lipstick, but what it gives the consumer and a sense of joy, it's really continuing to hold strong, and it's gonna continue to grow, forecasting even into 2024. I'll talk about just the other two industries, So the next two industries that you see charted in the purple, that dollar growth, is food and CPG. So really go to Target, you buy your deodorant, you buy your groceries. That growth, that dollar growth you see on the bottom charted, that's due to higher prices. Because if you see unit growth is down, you see those red arrows. So again, really inflation, higher prices at the checkout, that's what's driving a lot of that growth. And the other two industries growing there, auto and office supplies, again, really due to higher prices. I will say auto is showing some strength because we're really holding on to our cars longer. Anyone that's had to buy, lease, look for a car in the past 18 months knows how tough and how expensive it is. So as a result, we're seeing a lot of consumers holding onto their cars, and that really results in them having to maintain their cars. That's a big expense. So again, just thinking about that consumer share of wallet, where their money is going towards. Now, this is looking at total 2023. I want to hone in on Q4. It's the most recent quarter, it involves holiday. We had a lot of questions about Q4 performance. So here, go back one thing, Yeah, here we go. So here, looking at Q4 performance, again, I'll read it out loud. I know it's small, but no surprise, which industry do you think is leading in terms of growth this holiday season? Beauty. Again, prestige beauty dominated in terms of growth this holiday season. Every other industry we track declined in both dollars and units. Now, it was really a challenging holiday season. I know there's a lot of reports out there. There was some, reporting better performance, worse performance. Overall, this holiday, it was a longer holiday than we've seen. Christmas was later, and that extra time really didn't create a sense of urgency for consumers. There were about 5 weeks in between. They had a lot of time to go shopping. Additionally, we didn't see promotions driving sales. We saw a decrease in promotions this Q4. We know a lot of brands and retailers are trying to protect margin, which is healthy, which is good, but it's actually sacrificing some demand. So we didn't see any, promotions motivating growth, and consumers had longer than ever. So we saw declines this holiday season. Now, this is just looking at high industries, industries at a higher level, beauty, apparel, footwear, auto. Let's break it down, because when we look at categories within those industries, there was growth. So you can just leave, and I'll do the builds in a second, sorry. So looking at some of these industries, again, I'll read them out loud. The first two, hair and fragrances, the second and third growth, of course, that comes from the beauty industry. We also have makeup. So again, beauty taking 3 spots when we look at top growing categories. We saw team sports equipment. That's really, that could be equipment for kids, playing team sports, and also some equipment for exercise. We saw growth in performance, and growth in some cleaning supplies. That's looking at CPG. But I want to point out the fastest growing, which you see in the light purple. That is portable beverages. That was all driven by Stanley. So portable beverages in Q4 was the fastest growing category that we track at Circana, okay? And that all came from Stanley. I know we've all seen the memes, the pictures of people lining up at Target, getting into fights. SNL just did a skit on it. There's this big Stanley craze, and it is driving growth in the sector. So this is really significant of something else that we're seeing, a consumer mind shift. Talking about beauty and that treat mentality, this is really a attainable premium, I was practicing this word on the train because I always stutter on it, premiumization mentality. A couple years ago, after the pandemic, we had all this money and we were trying to just treat ourselves. There was a lot of growth in luxury experiences, expensive coffees, wine, trips, expensive fragrances. We saw growth in all of these high-end luxury categories. That's shifted. We've shifted more to attainable premium brands and categories. Stanley, by comparison, spending $40, $50 on a water cup is crazy, but again, it's a little splurge compared to maybe a $500 handbag. For apparel, if you look at the socks category, which Todd's going to get into some category specifics a little later on, what's driving some growth in socks? The number one item that's driving growth is the Nike Crew sock. Now for a 6-pack, it's about $20 to $25, which is expensive for a 6-pack, but again, it's a little splurge to just get that brand, just to get that item. So we're seeing, it's the same for that Lululemon crossbody. We're seeing this shift to attainable premium items. Maybe lesser expensive, but we're spending more just to get that little label, just to get that little luxury. So now let's dig into apparel. Let's just a high overview of what's going on in total retail. So looking at apparel in 2023, dollars, you can click through, sorry. I know I'm like the build queen, I always have so many builds. Dollars are down 4%, and that is driven by a lack of demand. As you see, units in the pink down 7%. Average selling price in the peach is up 3%. So when you look at that decline in dollars, really just coming from people, decline in demand, people buying less. So overall, we see average selling price is 14%. That's looking at total apparel. That is higher than ever. We've never seen an average selling price that high. However, growth is slowing. We see it's up 3% for 2023. That's comping against 8% in 2022. So higher than ever prices, but that growth is slowing down. Now, what's really important is to understand what's going on at a consumer level. Who's driving these declines in apparel? Well, I could tell you, while all generations are declining overall, millennials are driving the declines. They represented 58% of the losses in apparel in 2023. That really resulted in a $5 billion loss in sales. So what is going on? The biggest generation, they represent 37% of the spend on apparel, driving the declines. What is going on with this generation? Well, when we really dig into that share of wallet to see where they're spending, we are seeing a clear shift. Millennials shifting away from some discretionary purchasing towards more needs and necessities. So again, this is looking at the share shift of their spend. And you could see I highlighted in the yellow, those are responsibilities. That's money going towards housing, going towards decorating the home, going towards auto, going towards juvenile products, cribs, carriages. So really adulting is getting real for millennials. They have new responsibilities. We know that, we read all these articles that millennials aren't buying homes, it's the toughest time to buy a home. They're actually the fastest growing demo that are purchasing homes. So we're seeing that they're getting these new responsibilities, they're having families, and they're shifting their spend. Again though, and we see the industries that are leading declines, technology, followed by accessories, and of course apparel. So they're pulling money away from these industries. And one notable thing, if there's one clear message I'm gonna hammer home, the industry that is growing, you see it's in the peach, it's not in the yellow, because that's beauty. They continue to spend more on beauty. So while they're pulling away, they have all these responsibilities, they're spending more on this industry. And I want to, we talked about this, and I really want to echo it and bring it home that for the intimates industry, you guys are the closest to reflecting and imitating what beauty does, the joy it brings, the emotion it evokes. I think more so than any other industry, intimates can really replicate that for the consumer. So this behavior that we're seeing, intimates can absolutely tap into that. So let's talk about that a little bit. What beauty is tapping into, that joy, that it brings, and how apparel, how intimates can really replicate that. So we ask consumers, why are you buying apparel? Thinking about your future apparel purchases. Over half said replenishment. They need to just replenish their apparel. It's important for the industry to really change that relationship. And instead of focusing on just being a replenishment item, because we've been seeing declines the past 2 years, on really how to tap into innovation and joy. That's what beauty is doing. The industries that are winning are leaning into new trends. They're leaning into innovation, and they're leaning into joy. One brand that is doing an exceptional job at that in our industry is Skims. I know we always have trouble talking about Skims. You cannot deny the growth. Skims grew double digits in 2023. So within a declining market, Skims grew double digits. And that brand is leaning into this joy factor. So again, thinking of the bodysuits, they make you look good, they slim you out, you put it on, wow, I look great. There's a million TikTok videos of influencers and people trying on Skims and they can't believe how good they look. The necklines are very complimentary, it's a very nice silhouette, beautiful color palette. So they're just leaning into this mindset. They're doing for the body what makeup and beauty does for the face. So again, big opportunities to really replicate that same emotion. So when I talk about innovation, you can click again. When I talk about innovation, I know it can mean a lot of different things, right? To someone, it could mean new fabrication, or to someone else, it could mean new styles, or to another person, it could mean a new color palette. So we broke innovation into 3 buckets to really compartmentalize what does innovation look like? What are the levers that you could pull to really lean into innovation? So the first is really disruption. So sometimes when we think about innovation, that's what comes to mind. Something that is completely brand new, never seen it before in the industry, brand new to consumers. So an example of that outside of our industry is the Dyson Airwrap. right? When that came out, oh my gosh, we've never seen anything like that before. We have people spending $700, $800, $1,000 on a hair tool. And we've seen since the technology replicated and reproduced. However, it was a brand new item on the market. Now, part of innovation, we call this innovation, but it's really about satisfying a need and solving a problem. Now, an example of that is period panties. So it's not completely new, but it just solves a problem for the consumer. And we track period panties in our data, and they're up over 100% in 2023. So remember, a declining industry, triple-digit growth, okay? So it just shows you how solving a problem for the consumer can really be a way that you can lean into that newness and innovation. And then also there's renovation, which really could just be tweaking a product, making a minor upgrade. An example in apparel is we see dresses with built-in bras, those active dresses, which did really well in 2022. Think about Crocs with, Crocs was doing so well, then they came out with Crocs with the fuzzy lining, Uggs, all these new iterations of Uggs. So it's really just about an upgrade versus something completely new. Now, for the apparel industry, I feel like it's hard to really lean into disruption. Where I think apparel, our sweet spot and innerwear is innovation and renovation. Now, thinking about solving a problem, there are a lot of ways you could do that. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just think about every day, kind of, how people, what are their pain points with their apparel? So we asked consumers, which of the following would you like to see more of? And they said breathability and moisture wicking, stain, odor resistant, tagless clothing. So it could be just solving the most minor problem. And one thing I talk to a lot of active brands, I think a big problem in the active industry is waistbands. We still haven't developed anything that's better than just a little drawstring on a legging. Even Lululemon, they have the same challenge. So again, it could be solving a minor problem, but something like that can really make waves in an industry. I think someone's trying to get in, sorry. They might have walked away. So what is another lever of growth that we've been seeing in the industry this past year that we also is going to be big in 2024? And that's really entertainment. So we saw a lot of growth in different buckets and forms of entertainment. First, sports. Sports has been making waves in the apparel industry. First, we're seeing more collaborations than ever between sports figures, sports teams, and apparel brands. Even just logoed merchandise. So when Lionel Messi joined Miami, we saw soccer tops explode. In 2023, tops with an MLS logo, a soccer logo, was the fastest growing sports license. And it was all due to Messi joining Miami. Gave men a reason to wear pink. They were very excited about it. Even NFL. So NFL made up the largest volume for sports license. And where we saw the fastest growth, men makes up the majority of NFL logoed apparel, women were driving that growth. So we saw since the first NFL game this year, since that first week in September, all the way through to the last week of 2023, women's NFL sweatshirts grew every single week. So we're seeing this excitement around the sport. Little Taylor Swift magic is definitely helping. And even the week of the Super Bowl last year, the two teams that went to the Super Bowl, we saw triple-digit growth in NFL apparel in those DMAs. So this is an area of entertainment, and it's an area of adoration and excitement. You might not have a loyal consumer, but you absolutely have a loyal fan when it comes to sports. So a big opportunity to lean into that. And it might not even be a logo, but it could be colors. It could just be tapping into that trend, especially with the Olympics coming up, big opportunity. Music, tees, one of the categories that drove declines this year, but band tees actually grew. So again, tapping into a lot of that experiential economy. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Barbie and this pink wave that happened this year. We saw growth in pink apparel in June. We saw all these collaborations between beauty and apparel and footwear. It was Barbie mania. Everyone was tapping into the trend. And again, even looking at the data at a category level, we saw growth. Pink sports bras, pink panties. You can go to the next one, and pink makeup all growing in our data 2023 versus last year. So again, just ways of tapping into the trend. It doesn't have to be a completely new fresh item design, but how are you really tapping into these different entertainment streams that are getting a lot of attention? Okay, so just to recap overall, you could tap through all these, sorry, I know that's, I want to recap before I hand it over to Todd. So the industry will improve in 2024. We have some forecasts, but we're not expecting growth until 2025. So we'll see improved but low single-digit declines with a likely return to growth in 2025. Really understand your consumer's new behavior. Think about that millennial, their new responsibility. You know, are they looking, now they have families, their spend is going to different areas. Do they value convenience more? I think someone's trying to get it. Oh, there we go. Do they value convenience more than anything else? Lean into upcoming replenishment opportunities. So Todd will talk about some intimates performance, but you know, there's a bit of a challenge the past couple of years. We saw this big wave of growth in 2021 after COVID as we were stepping out. Likely she's gonna need to replenish again. So how do you tap into these upcoming replenishment opportunities? Think about experiential entertainment, their pathways to growth. What's coming up this next year? Again, like I mentioned, the Olympics, any movies that are coming out, licenses, how do you tap into this trend? And then innovation will ignite demand. How do you solve a problem, create something new? Outside of replenishment, it's really about sparking joy and making those connections. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Todd to talk about it.
Well, again, thanks, Kristen, for really giving us a great purview of the complete consumer and how she is interacting with her total spend and the apparel industry and the intimate industry. You know, I thought I'd start by just sort of comparing intimate apparel to total women's apparel. So pretty closely aligned in the decline, unfortunately. But I do want to share, we do have some good news to share about this industry. So women's apparel was down 3.4%. Total women's intimates was down 4.6%. So a little worse. So again, and consumers spent a little bit more share of their apparel wallet outside of the intimate business. And kind of if we look at all of the women's categories, we don't see a lot of purple, and at Circana, purple is our new green. Purple means growth. And so, but what you'll see here is women's pants and women's skirts and skirts were the categories that did well. Why? Because there was a ton of new silhouettes, new shapes, new looks within the bottoms categories where women had to replenish if they wanted to look on trend. And so again, it's that innovation and trend increase that will drive demand. When we take a look at total intimates, women's bras was actually only down 3%, but that's mostly driven by the new replenishment cycle in sport bras. And I'll talk about the other intimates categories a little later. So this is one of our favorite charts that we love to show every year. We always showcase 4 years of data, but next year we'll be able to showcase 5 years of data. And so what you're noticing though is a normalization of demand. So 6 months ending December 2023 really looks quite similar to 6 months December 20. And 4 or 5 years ago when Kristen and I started presenting at Curve, this chart was completely flat over the 4 years. And that is really what our talk track on that slide was. Intimates is a big $12 billion stable, mature industry. If you add sleepwear, it's 16 million, but essentially it's mature and it's up or down 1 or 2%. And everyone's job here is to steal share from the competition. That's how you win. So it's going to be interesting when we present in fall to sort of see if this really is true, but we're in our forecasting, which we have our sophisticated analytics team that helps us with these forecasts. It looks like it's going to be a pretty stable 24 and with a little bit of growth in 25, which is kind of back to what it was. When we look at the core intimates categories, Non-sport bras and panties, which are the majority of it, are actually down 5%. Sports bras had some growth. And shapewear, which again was doing so well, has a very long replenishment cycle. Once you buy shapewear, it's very durable stuff. You don't need to replenish it for a while. So that's gonna take a year or two to, again, kick in. Now, this does not include all of Skim sales. It includes Skim sales that happen in the retail partners that we work with. So probably shapewear's doing a little bit better than this. So just something to note.
A lot of that goes to bodysuit as well.
Right, exactly. And so it's really important to sort of understand where consumers are shopping. And so as per last season, e-commerce pure play, ASSG, which stands for Athletic Sports Specialty Stores, like Dick's Sporting Goods and that kind of thing, warehouse clubs and manufacturer-owned stores are the channels where customers are shopping for intimates. And it's interesting to note, as you'll see in the insight line, specialty stores, which is the #1 channel, which essentially is Victoria's Secret and Aerie and all those are actually down the most. So the Victoria's Secret turnaround didn't quite happen yet, which is tough for the industry because again, they're such a powerhouse. But I think it's really important to understand that Amazon, Costco, Sam's Club are really, really big players in the intimates market. It's very items driven, but again, there's a lot of growth there, and we know a lot of our clients are getting their growth out of those channels because that's where the customer's shopping. There's also an element of convenience there. She's shopping for groceries, she sees some panties and a sports bra, and she can do it all in one trip, and that's really important in today's consumer because she's time-starved as well as financially, her wallet is compressed. We have some really interesting ways to sort of maximize your club business. If you're interested, talk to Michelle, Chris, and I about, we have these retailer collaboration gateways at Circana, and they really help you maximize your business with the clubs. So it's just something new that we're offering up. And we always like to talk about demographics, and so definitely, Gen X is actually where the spending happened this year, which is good. Again, younger consumers getting into the market are shopping intimates. But when we look at income, we used to talk about sort of a bifurcation of the marketplace, but really it's actually a hollowing out of the middle. And so the value consumer, the under $50,000 household, is continuing to spend. Walmart, Target, and off-price and clubs to a certain degree is getting that customer. And then the over 200,000 household income is growing as well, which is actually good for sort of a show like this because there's a lot of premium European brands and premium sort of intimate apparel. So again, that consumer is still continuing to shop. Again, we thought we were going to go into a recession. Doesn't look like it. The stock market's doing well. That customer's invested there. So again, this is a positive play for this industry and particularly this level of merchandise that's being shown in this marketplace. So again, we love demographics and income stuff, so that's kind of our thing. So we always have what we call an innovation timeline. There's not a lot of innovation here, unfortunately. I was really hopeful when the Icon bra launched because that was custom lift, and we were thinking, that this will be sort of a customization, a custom fit for a new generation, and that they would get that. And it doesn't appear to have panned out. What was interesting to note, though, again, they call it the Icon bra. And a lot of our younger teammates, when they first saw it, they didn't understand what the bra was doing. Whereas custom lift, which is how it was communicated 10 or 15 years ago, really communicated that customization and perfect fit for you. And again, I think they kind of missed the mark on the communication. Again, they had great sort of in-store demonstrations, but no one knew what was going on. So just that, and that's my humble opinion. But I do, I really think that customer communication and benefit communication is sort of a key ingredient to success. a shout out to Skims for entering the men's market and utilizing athletic celebrities as the models and spoke models for the brand. Brilliant. Calvin Klein must be very concerned because again, this is going to take away from the premium market. Again, the nipple bra, novelty. I'm sure she sold a ton, but again, not something we're advocating. And then obviously just adaptive and again, Lululemon continues to grow, expanding into categories and adjacent categories that make sense for them. So just super interesting. So a retailer and a brand that we work with and we've been tracking and are really interested in is Soma. They do an amazing job of evolving their customer and down aging their customer. The Soma customer traditionally is a little more mature, but they really are down aging and they probably dropped about 10 or 12 years in age in their average customer. Is something that we've been tracking. And again, they just know how to put pretty and comfortable and functional benefits together so well. This is their Everyday Elegance collection, which is new. Looks a little bit like Nora Bra from Chantel, if we're being all honest here in this room. But again, it's really beautiful and really, it's really part of their brand DNA, and it just shows how they're expanding their assortment to sort of appeal to her complete intimate wardrobe. And then they have the new lace soft bra, which again coordinates nicely with this. Bally, a brand that's been around forever, is growing. And again, this is an example. The industry's down 4, but Bally is actually up +5. What's going on there? They've sort of leaned into sort of softness, comfort, and beauty. Their soft touch collection, and again, I don't work for Ballet. I'm not, but we're just noticing this. Again, it's really lustrous, it's pretty, and again, for Ballet, it's very elevated, and again, looks on trend. So again, they're doing a great job. And again, not a lot of the moderate brands, like in the top 10 brands, they're the only brand that's growing. So again, it's that innovation story that Kristen talked about, or renovation story in this case, just sort of adding luster to existing silhouettes. And then, Adore Me was purchased by Victoria's Secret, and it's actually popping up as a fastest growing retailer in the intimates market. So just something to watch. And again, they've done a great job, particularly in New York City. You're seeing Adore Me sort of outdoor advertising all around. Again, great product, and it was a great acquisition for VS because it does get them a younger consumer and a slightly different consumer. So kudos to them. Okay, so I'm gonna collect my notes because I'm not quite as good as Kristen at going without notes. But so at Circana, we believe in a theory that was created by Byron Sharp. He's a famous marketing professor, I think at UCLA or Stanford. And his theory is 50 years old, but it is relevant today as it was in 1970. He wrote a book called How Brands Grow. And it's based on the fact that it's more important to sort of track your customers over time, understand how they're moving between brands and retailers, because brands are actually cheating on you. Brand loyalty is actually a myth, and that's kind of what's really cool about this this theory. Is it actually is kind of a myth buster to traditional marketing. How they switch between brands and retailers is really one of the most important things that you can sort of understand. And at Circana, we have a tool called Checkout that allows us to track consumers over time and see where Victoria's Secret buyers are actually now shopping, and seeing where the Amazon shopper, when she's not shopping at Amazon, is actually going to Lululemon. And so that is really, really interesting information and helpful information when planning channel strategies and sort of go-to-market strategies. So I'm going to use, I'm at the Curve show, but I'm going to use a men's brand because you really need to know what's going on at Hugo Boss. And again, they're very successful men's and women's sportswear manufacturer. Their latest earnings call in the US, they were up 18%. They've had 244% growth in the last 4 years. And as Kristen shared the apparel numbers, we don't have a lot of things happening at 244%. So that's definitely an exception. And so, how did they do it? Well, actually, How Brands Grow explains how they did it. They were in traditional dress and sportswear categories for years. So what did they do differently to win in the marketplace when consumers are not spending on clothing, alone spending on dress-up clothing alone? So a few things happened over the past 18 to 24 months. In an obvious one, they went after active again. But they did active in a much dressier vibe than sort of the Nikes and the Under Armours of the world. So again, there was a reason for a certain customer that Nike Under Armour super performance is not what they want, but they want comfortable clothing and they want it in a way that feels right to them. They evolved their dress-up assortment to be a lot more hybrid. Lots of stretch, lighter weight materials, and just, again, a more casual but polished look. And Kristen talks a lot about the sort of the customers moving from casual to polished casual. And then they understood the power of sports licenses. And again, athletes becoming the new fashion influencers when they walk into stadiums for the tunnel walk, which is something I did not know about, but I learned it when I worked with Under Armour and they talked to me all about the tunnel walk. And again, this is the red carpet for sports, and it's amazing. So you're probably saying like, Todd, you're at Curve, why are you talking about menswear? But the truth is, this really does apply to intimates. So let me tell you about that. And so at the very high end, there's a certain French lingerie brand that for years was all about constructed, lacy underwire bras. But over the past couple of years, they created seamless product that was modern, elevated, and comfortable in both bras and panties. They created more comfortable constructions and also added comfort-oriented wire-free bras that looked modern and more approachable for their customer. They most recently launched swim, but again, all these new products were made with the brand DNA in mind, and it would naturally appeal to existing and new consumers. And that's kind of how brands grow. A personal example of mine in my career, again, I worked at Warner's. We had a 98% market share in wire-free. Wire-free is 35% of the market, so yay, we had the total market of the smallest piece of the pie. And so we work with all of our clients and they say, Todd, I want to do this, but the retailers got me in the box. And like, they'll only let me, I can only be this supplier for the t-shirt bra, and they won't let me go into seamless and wire-free. Well, keep on trying. Again, we were definitely kept in that wire-free box, but we said to ourselves, we have to get into that other market. And so we sort of, we eventually built what we call the most comfortable bra in the world. This is not a bra, with the help of industry legends like Dawn Allen, like Joanne Kay, like Vivian Lee, and Erin Lynn. And again, they came out with an underwire bra that was so comfortable it couldn't be a bra. And that actually came out of consumers' mouths and focus groups. So again, the buyers were skeptics, but we had research to sort of back it up. And so we said, no, this is what customers want. So again, it was focusing on a ton of benefits that really sort of factored in her comfort needs and her support needs, and it worked. And so again, Warner's has been one of those brands over the past 10 years that has grown significantly, almost doubled in fact. And you guessed it, that's how brands grow. Just again, getting out of your merchandising comfort zone. So Kristen had sort of some takeaways that she wanted you sort of to leave with. And so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna leave you with sort of 3 strategies for growth in what is a very, very competitive market. So be where she is. She is shopping in value chains, Amazon, Costco, as well as department stores and mid-tiers. But think about expanding your distribution channels in these other places where she's shopping. And again, particularly in times of sort of this economic confusion, I would say people are just not sure about what's going on. People love the value chains. Comfort and beauty, combining those is a winning combination. Soma and Bally's Soft Tough collection are really great examples of that in the marketplace. And lastly, get out of your merchandising comfort zone. We work with so many clients that say, oh, I can only do this. And once they sort of get out of their comfort zone and expand the assortment and appeal to her broader intimates wardrobe, they tend to grow. So that's kind of what I kind of love to leave you with. There's 3 sort of strategies for growth. And so I think that's it. And you know, if you have any questions, we've got time for questions now.
Yeah,
and also we'd like to introduce Michelle Chris, who's our executive director. And again, she helps us work with clients to sort of help them understand our products and things like that. So that's it. Okay. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
So what does it mean, again, when you say expand merchandise coverage?
Okay, so that means, so Skims is a great example. Skims is a great example. They started out in shapewear. Then they kind of did shapewear-looking dresses. They did swim. They did men's underwear. They did sleepwear. They did lounge, and that just made sense. And it's expanding your merchandising comfort zone, but staying true to your brand DNA. And again, everything that Skims does looks like a Skims product, but they're going into all those other categories. Lululemon is another great example of a retailer that, you know, it's funny, I live in Florida, and like last December, like I saw all these puffer coats at Lululemon in Miami, and I'm like, oh, okay. But you know, but again, they've grown significantly in outerwear. They're in fashion accessories. That Lululemon crossbody bag is like the #1 accessory item. So again, that's kind of, it's just expanding into adjacent categories that make sense for your brand.
Do you track a consumer's willingness to try a new brand? If so, how does that look? And also, is there a certain trait or something that gives a consumer more confidence in trying a new brand?
That's a great question. So yeah, so that checkout tracking data, which I have for that share of wallet, and Todd talked about, it shows it's longitudinal data. So what that means is that we can track certain consumers and just see how they're shifting over time. So to answer your question, we can see if a consumer is making a first purchase at a brand, and are they making that repeat purchase? How soon after are they making that repeat purchase, or are they going somewhere else, and where are they going? So we can absolutely track it that way. In terms of like a survey question, you know, we do actually do,
Yeah,
we could do that as well. Yeah, we do have read contact surveys then to understand why you purchased this, you know, why did you go to this other retailer? So we absolutely can find that out with that checkout data.
And we can contact the shopper that bought your brand first and ask them why they liked it, and so you can get a pretty good sample size. And again, all under privacy legislation, they've opted in.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fascinating that you can actually talk to a specific, we can get it to they bought a style, and you can talk to a customer and ask them about why they purchased that style compared to something else.
Generally speaking, are they, compared to say 5 years ago, or is a consumer more likely to try a new brand now, or maybe less likely?
I would say, given that some of the industry leaders are no longer the industry leaders, talk to the point that people want more choice, and it's also much easier to connect with new buyers because of social media, quite honestly. Yeah. Whereas you know, again, the big players had a real hold in the market. That's much less the way. Yeah.
You didn't mention sustainability anywhere in this presentation. I'm just curious where where do you see consumers on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So sustainability is something that we, before the pandemic, I mean, frequently always talked about. I think the pandemic shifted our priorities, right? We had more immediate needs.